Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I would just want to make sure we have everybody on the panel. We've been waiting for so the minister. I think the name that's displaying is different. I don't know if you can change that, or is that okay? Like it says Christopher Massotti on it.
Another fine Italian Canadian, but I assure you it's Marco Mendicino who's on the line. The minister's with you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. With that confirmation, I think we're ready to start. I'd like to welcome everybody, all of you on the Zoom conference bridge, as well as everybody that's following us on Facebook. It is an honor and a privilege for me to welcome today's esteemed panel, as well as to make sure that this is another one of our Thursday talks at the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Another topic, we started this sometime in April, and we've been doing this every Thursday with a few exceptions where we couldn't do it. But we've had a wonderful audience, wonderful panelists, and today is no exception. So today's topic is going to be on COVID-19 and immigration. And Canada, as all of us already know, is one of the top destinations for immigrants. And 2020 was supposed to be no exception. However, we had, things happen, and we know where we are in right now. And as of mid-March, we were committed to a plan of having 370,000 new permanent immigrants in 2020. That would have exceeded 2019's record-setting tally of 341,000 newcomers. Now, for the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce, these numbers have special relevance because a large portion, I'm sure the minister and our experts are going to details, but a large portion of them, about 25% of that numbers are Indians of Indian origin, and some of them are become members of the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. So the COVID-19 lockdown, so the numbers are low, but expect rise anytime. Now, what is the impact on the economy? These are things that we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about possibly, how are these things going to move out? Is the quota from this year going to move to the next year? Is it going to be a combined quota? What does Canada need to get out of the situation we're in? So all of those topics, and we have a fantastic panel. So we are now going to just talk a little bit about our sponsor for today. Our program sponsor is Fragomen. Fragomen is the world's largest single-focus immigration firm. It has 52 offices around the world with approximately 4,500 staff members. The firm assists employers deploy their staff to more than 17 jurisdictions. Fragomen Canada advises on Canadian temporary and permanent immigration matters, offers consular services, and has a team assisting with cross-border movement into the US. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to have a keynote address by the Honorable Marco Mendicino, Canada's Minister for Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship. We have presentations by David Crawford, Managing Partner of Fragomen Canada, Parisa Mabubi, Senior Policy Analyst at Howe Institute, and we have an interactive session, question answer between the panelists and our very own President of the ICCC, Pramod Goyal. We will also have our concluding remarks and acknowledgement of sponsors and partners by Surinder Sharma, my colleague and Vice President at the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. So we've got to get a couple of hygiene things out of the way. The Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce has started a small business assist program. When COVID hit, we found out that some of our members, as well as the Indo-Canadian community at large, needed help. And then we looked around and said, between our membership, we had people that had skills around accounting, finance, technology, and we said, why not we create a small business assist program? So any of you, if you are in any bit in need of assistance, you can send an email to icc@icconline.org and say small business assist, and we will connect you to one of our members or one of the board members who can help you with this. And this is for free. The initial 1 hour thing is absolutely free. So moving on, we have a small disclaimer that we've got to get out of the way. So the information provided at today's webinar is conducted is only for general information purposes, does not constitute legal or professional advice. And furthermore, the views expressed by the speakers are their own personal opinion and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the ICCC. So now, without further ado, we'll get to our keynote address. Our speaker is going to be the Honorable Marco Mendicino, Canada's Minister for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship. Now, some bit about the Honorable Marco Mendicino. He was first elected as a Member of Parliament for Eglinton Lawrence in 2015. He's a proud resident of Toronto and a passionate advocate for his community. During his first term, he championed local investments in public transit and in affordable housing and supported youth-driven programs aimed at creating more employment opportunities and safe spaces. Before entering politics, Minister Mendicino served as a federal prosecutor. The son of an immigrant family, he has a long track record of community activism in the Eglinton Lawrence area. Please join me in welcoming Minister Mendicino. So over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for the warm introduction, and also as a former lawyer, the disclaimers, which are very important. Namaste and happy Navratri to everyone who is on the call. And thank you to the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce for inviting me. And I am also very privileged to be joining my esteemed co-panelists, which I'm sure will make for a very interesting conversation today. I'd much rather be in person with you, but given the unprecedented year that we find ourselves in 2020, we're finding other ways to stay connected. And I'm sure that you have all logged many, many hours on Zoom, coming up with new backgrounds. This is a real background. Yes, that's a real bookcase. You may see one of my young two daughters come in at some point to let in some fresh air. But other than that, it is truly, truly an honor to be with you all. I want to bring greetings as well on behalf of the government, including my friends and colleagues, Ministers Anita Anand, Navdeep Bains, Harjit Sajjan, and naturally the Prime Minister, all of whom are great friends to the ICCC and the community. And indeed, it is really, really fantastic to be with you. I want to thank you as well for your work in promoting trade and commerce between Canada and India, as well as strengthening ties between our two countries. Your dedicated advocacy and friendship is truly appreciated. The bonds between Canada and India run deep, something you all know firsthand. The first Indian immigrants arrived on our shores over a century ago, and in the face of adversity and racism, they built lives. You built lives for yourselves and for our country, and it's made us better. In the years since then, millions more have made Canada their home, and our Indo-Canadian community has made immeasurable contributions to our country. In many ways, that's thanks to you, the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. You've nurtured and strengthened this relationship, helping to bring together not just our economies, but our peoples as well. As the Minister of Immigration and as a son of an immigrant family, I want to say thank you. Last year, more people came to Canada from India than any other country, fully 1/4 of all immigrants to Canada. What's even more impressive is that over the past 2 years, immigrants from India have made up over 40% of those selected through our economic flagship, the Express Entry program, which is designed to attract highly skilled immigrants. You're also the majority of applicants for the Global Talent Stream, and that has made a huge difference for businesses right across the country, including many of yours. Now, before I come to talk about the specific impacts of COVID on immigration, I just want to say that over the last 8 months, our government has been singularly focused on Canadians. We've been there for workers, for families, and for businesses as well, introducing the emergency recovery benefit, the wage subsidy, the emergency business account, all of which are designed to help businesses and employees bridge over this very difficult period. And we will continue to stand up for you and for all Canadians as we make our way through this pandemic. And I am confident and optimistic that as we pull together, that eventually there will be a day where we put COVID-19 in the rearview mirror. In the meantime, it is very, very encouraging to see us stand in solidarity, community to community, making sure that we really tackle COVID-19 together. The disruption that has been caused by COVID-19 has not only impacted government, it has impacted every facet of life. And nowhere is that more true than at the border. It goes without saying that global migration has been upended by COVID-19, and the journey of newcomers to Canada has been, as I said, disrupted. Our immigration system has been affected, and things are definitely taking a little bit longer than we'd like. I know that for many, the extra time that has been spent making sure that those journeys are taken safely and orderly has been a challenge, not just for people, but for businesses in both Canada and India. Yet our commitment to welcoming new Canadians remains unchanged. In order to keep immigration flowing, we have and continue to adapt, to innovate, and to streamline our policies and processes. COVID-19 has driven us to build on our efforts to think smarter and more efficiently about the way that we do things. We've taken citizenship ceremonies virtual, for example, welcoming 30,000 new Canadians in digital space. And we're making plans to allow candidates to take that citizenship test online as well. The pandemic has made it more difficult for those looking to move internationally, wherever their destination is, particularly as countries like India have been hard hit, and the closure of local visa application centers are impacting the entire processes for many. Despite this, our government will continue working to keep families together, especially during hard times like these. We know how important it is, which is why we've made family reunification the cornerstone of our immigration system. Keeping families together is why we moved quickly to introduce the first pathways for immediate families in the early days of the outbreak. Keeping families together is why we've introduced a new process to allow extended family members to travel to Canada, including adult children, siblings, grandchildren, and grandparents, as well as people who are in unmarried long-term relationships. Keeping families together is why we increased the intake of applications from 5,000 to 40,000 over the next 2 years for the parent and grandparent program. And we've already seen strong interest, something I'm sure that will come as no surprise to you. In addition, we've established a new process to allow foreign nationals to enter Canada for compassionate reasons, like visiting a loved one at the end of their life or attending a funeral. We've also introduced new measures for international students because we know that they are vital to Canada's economy and to our future. So many Indo-Canadians began their journey as a student in Canada, and we want to see that success continue forward. With the appropriate protocols, we began allowing international students to return to Canada earlier this week. Of course, like any other person arriving in Canada, every one of those students must be asymptomatic and quarantined for 14 days, while colleges and universities across the country have been developing their own tailored, provincially approved COVID-19 readiness plans. As we face a second wave and beyond, our government's commitment to immigration remains stronger than ever. The pandemic hasn't changed the fact that we face the demographic challenges of an aging and retiring population, nor the fact that immigration is the cornerstone of our economic growth. And just as we've supported businesses through the pandemic with major programs to help them keep their employees, pay rent, and get access to capital, we're supporting the future growth of our country and our commitment to immigration. Immigration remains vital to our success, and we look forward to having more to say about that very soon. Immigration is helping us to build the diverse, inclusive Canada where everyone can reach their full potential, where people realize that their aspirations and that their businesses have the opportunity to get the talent that you need. Immigration helps us to rebuild our economy and strengthen our communities going forward. Immigration puts Canada back onto the path of prosperity as quickly as possible. And as we walk this path together, I know I can count on your support. In closing, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be with you today. I look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully in the not too distant future. And I want to wish everyone at the ICCC and in the broader community an early happy Diwali. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Minister Mendicino. Should I say Shukriya, Dhanyawad? Thank you very much. We have now with us Dr. David Crawford. David Crawford is the managing partner of Fragomen in Canada and a member of the Fragomen Global Executive Committee. Dr. Crawford supports businesses seeking to recruit foreign nationals into the Canadian labor market with their immigration needs. He also assists individuals seeking to immigrate. Prior to becoming the managing partner in Canada in August 2012, Dr. Crawford was a partner with Fragomen in the United Kingdom, and prior to that, a founding partner of Fragomen's Australian practice. He also served as an Australian diplomat. He is a licensed barrister and solicitor. He is also a much sought after speaker and is featured regularly at different fora, including the Global Forum for Migration and Development in Ecuador, Conference Board of Canada Immigration Symposium, Ontario Chamber of Commerce Annual Economic Summit, and the World Trade Organization. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Crawford. So over to you, David, Dr. Crawford, and we all hope to hear from you. Dr. Crawford, you're on mute, I guess.
There we go. How's that? All right. Thanks, Vijay. So thank you for the introduction to the Minister and Dr. Mahboubi, my co-presenters, and to the board and members of the Chamber. I hope everybody's well. Before I say a few words, I will say that I can tell you that when I meet with my colleagues in other countries, they speak jealously because we have a political discourse in Canada and a regulatory regime in Canada that is broadly very supportive of immigration. That is not the case in many countries around the world. The role of immigration in the building of this beautiful country was magnificently mentioned referred to by the Minister. We know the data that the contribution of Indian nationals to the immigration program annually is extraordinary. It's not just in those who are landed immigrants, but the feeder groups, the people who come as foreign workers, the people who come as students and then qualify in due course to stay permanently. And so clearly the impact of this horrible pandemic has been, I won't say catastrophic, but certainly a setback. And the travel restrictions that have been imposed by both India and Canada, which has been necessary, is one of a number of things having an impact. What I want to do briefly in my few moments is just to give some feedback or some insights into what people thinking about immigration or use the immigration system feel. We work with corporations, very large ones and smaller and middle businesses and individuals seeking to immigrate. And they all have a perspective of the experience to date and what they're looking for into the future. And I want to mention a few of those things. I've split up the feedback from corporations into the larger enterprises and the smaller ones, and it'll be clear why. The very large multinational businesses who operate here and in so many places and very often bring hundreds of people to this country to work, sometimes temporarily, sometimes they'll stay permanently. Most stopped their international deployment early on, March, April, May, they just cut things. They focused much more to repatriation of some staff members or otherwise securing the status of their country in Canada and in elsewhere, other countries. And what they have done over the last number of months is to reassess where they are in a business sense. And part of that looks at each country. And I want to share a few things with you. There is a question in their mind about to what extent international deployment will be necessary in the future and whether their business models will change. And what does that mean for Canada? Will governments restrict movement, particularly as labour markets soften and there might be increased sensitivity to having people come in to do work? Will their clients accept different ways of doing business? I mean, in many cases, consulting businesses, for example, require the consultants to be on site. But I've had feedback from some businesses that now remote working, remote provision of services might become more common, and certainly not a problem for some of their clients. Some are seeking to encourage people to stay here by becoming permanent residents, bolstering their local labour force. And one global mobility lead, very big business, huge program, said that he believes that everything will go back to 2019 type figures before we can imagine it. I don't know about that. For these companies, the outcome of the US election, the presidential election, is also relevant. The recent presidential proclamations, the H-1B prevailing wage changes and possible immigration reforms have really complicated what was already a difficult situation. And I can tell you that I'm getting very many approaches from businesses in the United States, including businesses run by Indian nationals, looking to whether they should increase their investment in Canada, and if so, what that might look like. It's premature to talk about outcomes. I think that for the moment, there is an assessment and not many have made decisions, but these are important times. In looking at smaller businesses, it's been a different experience to some extent. They have been much more thrown by the pandemic and the restrictions to travel. And we've worked with businesses where appropriate, so where they could justify the entry of people into Canada for essential non-discretionary business purposes. But they remain very concerned, and they're very often the people telephoning us regularly saying, is there a change? Are the restrictions going to be loosened, and so on? The third group are individuals, because this country is initially built on immigration of people getting on a boat and traveling to Canada and getting off and landing. And what we found around the world, and I'm including India in this, we found that people approaching us in greater numbers. And while the pandemic may not be the only factor in their minds, it's created a moment in time where people are rethinking what they want for themselves and for their children. And in many cases, they're saying it's time to think about another place. And Canada is one of those destinations. I was on a telephone call with a family of 10 last week from a country in Africa. There was a speech therapist, an accountant, an architect, and a hotel manager, and some other people. They're all members of a family, and they're all looking to go to an economy where they can go into business or pursue their careers, and to do so as a family. And they asked me about the UK, and they asked me about Australia, but the front runner in their mind is Canada. And they said it was the pandemic that triggered a moment for them. And it's not a brief thing. I would say that when we talk about seed migration at this time for some of those places, and we work with people in quite a number of countries around the world, this is not a thing that will pass when the pandemic passes. There will be a continuing demand to go to a place that it offers a safe, healthy, bright future for children. And Canada is one of those few places that I think is standing out at the present time. So let me finish by saying that I think that there is a real opportunity for Canada in a business sense and for individuals coming here at the moment. But it is a delicate moment in time. And I'm not saying that there should be any hubris or any assumption that things will go well. The ministers mentioned the challenge with processing times, and that will probably be the preeminent concern for businesses, because after all, being able to move people in a predictable and a timely fashion to meet business needs is very important. But also that's going to be true for people who do want to come here to live, although it's not such a pressing issue at the moment. There will be, and there is hope from not only business people, but also others on whether or not other measures can be introduced to reduce perhaps self-isolation. I saw today that Alberta is looking to introduce a rapid test trial to reduce or even remove the need for self-isolation. I don't know how that will go. And also whether the government's going to change policy to facilitate or restrict movement at this time. And the minister's words were very encouraging. And if there's news to look forward to very soon, that I think that will send a very positive message to many people around the world. So I'd like to say thanks again to the Chamber. I'll conclude my remarks by saying I think immigration has been and continues to be a nation builder for this country. Indian nationals form a big part of that. And we're poised, while the pandemic is an awful thing, there is opportunity that lies before both countries, and particularly for Canada. So back to you, Vijay, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Crawford. And I think those of us who live in Canada look around, and sometimes we think there's a lot that's not happening right. But when you look at the perspective from a global standpoint, I think we are a sea of calm. It is definitely better out here, and I think that's what Dr. Crawford also mentioned. So now we'll move to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Parisa Mabubi. Dr. Parisa Mabubi is the Senior Policy Analyst at the C.D. Howe Institute in Toronto. She leads the C.D. Howe Institute's Human Capital Policy Council, and her research interest focuses on social policy with a concentration on demographics, skill, education, and labor market concerns. In addition to authoring research studies, she regularly writes a column for the Globe and Mail's business section. Prior to joining the C.D. Howe Institute in 2016, Dr. Mahboubi worked at the Statistics Canada Research Data Center and as an instructor and research assistant at the University of Guelph while completing her PhD studies. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Parisa Mabubi. Dr. Mahboubi, over to you, and we look forward to listening to your views on COVID-19's impact on Canadian immigration.
Thank you so much, Vijay. It's great to be here, and thank you all for joining, and also other speakers, especially the minister. I really enjoyed that. Today, I'd like to talk why immigration is important for Canada, how COVID-19 has affected Canada's immigration programs, and what are its impacts on our economy. As the minister has highlighted and mentioned, I'm going to echo that immigration has been a key driver of Canada's economic development in different ways. First, as natural population growth has slowed, immigration has become a major contributor to population and labor force growth in Canada. In fact, in less than 2 decades, immigration is expected to be the only driver of Canada's population growth. Therefore, its contribution to growth in the tax base are becoming more and more important. Second, Canada's labor market had already undergone major shifts that have affected demand for skills and jobs, mainly due to automation even before the crisis. COVID-19 will likely intensify these shifts, create some permanent displacements and sectoral imbalances between skills needed by employers and those offered by job seekers. These changes can lead to skill shortages and also highlight the importance of immigration to attract foreign talent to address sector-specific needs, particularly during the recovery and also in the long term. Immigration also contributes to consumption growth and investment and plays a very important role in housing markets and helps recovery after the crisis. Lastly, the number of foreign students at universities and colleges in Canada has increased significantly in recent years. Estimates shows that international students have contributed more than 21 billion to Canada's economy in 2018 and generated 6 billion in tuition revenue. Next slide is going to show that COVID-19 travel restrictions have had a significant impact on Canada's immigration numbers. To be specific, between April and August of 2020, temporary and permanent immigration programs have seen a large decline of 36 to 66% in their number of visas issued compared to that of 2019. And they implies that Canada will not be able to meet its targeted immigration level to welcome more than 300,000 permanent immigrants in 2020, similar to last year. As summarized in the next slide, this is important to increase immigration when it's possible for the government to support Canada's economic recovery. The reason is that immigrants will help to boost consumption and spending, fill gaps in the labor market, and also support job creation needed for the recovery, since immigrants are more likely to start their own businesses. However, Canada's ability to recover more quickly not only requires attracting talent, but also requires rapid labor market integration of immigrants. Studies and data shows that Canadian educated immigrants, as the minister highlighted, international Canadian educated immigrants, basically, they are more able to, they perform better compared to Canadian educated, they perform better than foreign educated immigrants, and also immigrants who had Canadian work experience prior to getting their permanent residency, are able to more quickly integrate into the labor market and achieve parity in earnings. So these trends and these statistics show importance of temporary immigration, and also a two-step immigration process in our point system to support Canada's economy. Temporary foreign workers and international students, and the pathways for them to become permanent immigrants are critical for our economy. The last thing that I want to highlight is, again, as the minister mentioned, Canada has reopened the borders to international students. This is a very great news, and something about that is that this decision and this change will help the recovery in the short term through tuition and other spending, and in the long term by improving the quality of immigrants entering the labor market through greater exposure to language and work experience. Thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to your question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahboubi. Now, friends, it is time for our Q&A interactive session, and I'd like to introduce all of you to our very own Pramod Goyal. Pramod Goyal is the president of the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce and is also the CEO of Canada-wide Financial Corporation, a multidisciplinary business advisory management consulting firm. He's a dynamic entrepreneur, a business strategist, and a highly experienced management consultant with over 30 years of experience in founding, managing, and advising growth companies, including strategy consulting, corporate finance, audit, and governance, private equity transactions, and strategic business relationships. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the stage to Pramodji. Pramodji, you are on. Over to you.
Thank you, Vijay. Very warm welcome once again to all our audience, those who are connected with us this afternoon. On behalf of our chamber, our members and stakeholders, I extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished speakers for this afternoon, Honorable Minister, Mr. Marco Mendicino, Dr. Crawford, and Dr. Mahboubi. We all heard from you, Minister, and the distinguished panelists on the impact of the pandemic on our immigration numbers. Now I think it's time for us to take a bit of dive into some of these issues and areas and seek your inputs on those. With your permission, I would like to begin with you, Minister. Some economists have argued that Canadian economy is giving undue emphasis to labor inputs rather than labor productivity. If we were to enhance labor productivity through investments in technological innovations, our economy's dependence on immigration might be greatly reduced. How would you react to this?
Well, I don't think that the two are irreconcilable. I think that Canada is a country that is very much focused on innovation and technology so that we can become more productive. But it shouldn't be, and it cannot be, I would argue, at the exclusion of immigration. And here's why. One, we need to grow. I mean, you heard from some of my co-panelists that we are currently on the cusp of or have reached a moment where our workforce will no longer grow absent immigration. So in order to preserve the Canadian experience, whether it's healthcare, education, or retirement security for all those baby boomers who've worked so hard and have contributed their entire lives to preserve those covenants, we need to continue to move the needle to address those demographic challenges. And, you know, as I've pointed out on many other occasions, this is a problem that can't wait. We can't stop growing now, because that will just put an increased burden on each and every single taxpayer dramatically in the next 15 to 20 years, escalating the costs of funding each and every one of those essential services. So again, my view is, and I believe it's one that many people share, including some of the most distinguished economists, including some of our ambassadors who serve abroad right now, who are serving at posts in parts of the world where those are host countries, where we're looking to attract the best and the brightest. Immigration is going to be, it has been and will continue to be, an economic driver. It has been a lifeline during this pandemic in essential parts of our economy, like food, like health, like energy, and it will be a long-term driver of economic prosperity going forward, to say nothing of the fact that it adds to our diversity. And that's something that I think, you know, that your community, the community of my heritage, and indeed communities right across this country truly relate to. That journey, that coming to Canada and rolling up your sleeves and working hard, that's what makes us, I think, so special in the world today. And that's why I'm so honored to be able to talk about that in my capacity as the Minister for Immigration.
Thank you, Minister. No, I agree with what you said. Yeah. Dr. Crawford, as an immigration lawyer with experience in different markets, how do you rate the Canadian immigration program in the near to midterm of the most important opportunities and the most significant risks? Dr. Crawford, if you can kindly unmute.
There we go. I've unmuted.
Thank you.
I might talk to the risks first. I do agree entirely with what the Minister said, that immigration adds to aggregate demand and supply of skills, demand for goods and services in this country. But there are other countries that are competing for similar skill sets, who have similar issues to address. And while the immigration policies, I believe, are very facilitative and the envy of a lot of countries, we can't assume that they're fine forever. I'll give you a couple of examples. In this drive to gain and attract certain skill sets, the Australians have introduced a global talent stream, I think, visa, where they've got diplomats abroad in different places, and they're actively approaching those individuals and offering them permanent resident status to go to their country. I'm not saying the policy is fine. I think it sounds strange, but it's an example of the sort of approach being taken to attract quality people. In the UK, it is now possible for people without being sponsored by an employer to be recruited with a fast track to what's called indefinite leave to remain, on the basis that they are considered highly talented by certain bodies. And these are very recent policies. That last one was introduced in February this year. So the policy environment is competitive. There are many other examples I could give you. Another risk, I would say, is touching upon what the Minister and I said about process, that process and speed to market and those sort of things are relevant. There is internationally competition from sovereign states to have IT and with it some AI capability to facilitate the applications of so many people. You think about 340,000 people, that's a lot of applications, plus the temporary residents, plus the students. And there are several countries competing with Canada to have the right technology deployed. On the opportunity side, though, as I said, this country has a reputation for having a good system and the political and popular support for immigration. And on top of that, health systems, educational systems, a system of government that makes it a very attractive package. So it's about getting some other things well positioned as we pull out of the pandemic, so Canada can realize some of those opportunities. I hope that addresses the question.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. And I can definitely echo what you said as a first generation immigrant. I mean, we all experience all the benefits that this country has provided to all of us. And I agree. Thank you. Dr. Mahboubi, I'm slightly shifting a little bit on a different subject, though it is related. Uh, Earlier this year, you had co-authored a research paper on Ontario's social assistance programs. And you had claimed that the programs are exorbitant, costing our province about $9 billion. I think it was in reference to 2018, if the numbers are correct. Do you have an estimate of how the pandemic has affected these programs and what could possibly be the estimated cost to the province in the current year?
Unfortunately, I haven't looked at the data in terms of number of people on social assistance since the crisis, but one thing that I am aware of is that some programs, not specifically in Ontario, but other provinces, there has been some decline in the number of cases on social assistance program, and one of the reason is that government provided different different income support programs for individuals. For example, some social assistance programs with job prior to the crisis, when if they lost their job, they were able to for example, use SERP program and receive some income support through that program. So they didn't need the social assistance program. But one thing really important is that to see, now there is no SERP. We have also different support program in place. But when all these support programs, they are not available to individuals. And as I mentioned, we are expecting to see some structural unemployment, and some individuals are not able to find job because they don't have the right skills, or the job simply has changed, the nature of job has changed. So it is possible to see a surge in the use of social assistance programs after the crisis and during the recovery. And this is one of the reasons that City Howe Institute reports and even publications, we try to highlight the importance of training. Immigration is really important to address shortages and issues in the labor market in the short term. But at the same time, this is really important to focus on training for those individuals who lost their job and they don't have the right skill to move to different industries or take on different new jobs. So it's if we can provide right training for those individuals currently living in Canada, it's also possible to see a surge in the number of social assistance recipients.
So I think, thank you, Dr. Mahboubi, for that response. So in other ways, if I can say, in the absence of full foreign credential recognition in some of the cases, especially when we talk about new immigrants, so would you expect that the support infrastructure, the cost to the province or to the federal system would go up as we talk about more numbers of immigrants to come in? Would that be a fair statement?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Are you saying that more immigrants are going to create some burden on province and on government's budget?
No, with reference to what you're mentioning, that in terms of skills, the training and upgradation of foreign immigrants that come in, and also in addition to that, the recognition issues for some of the foreign credentials, especially when we look at in the independent professional category, a lot of people come in. So with reference to that, I'm saying, would that be an additional burden in terms of government providing that assistance for skill and development, upgradation of these newcomers that are coming into the country?
Sure, absolutely. The barriers that immigrants are facing in the labor market, especially when it comes to recognition of their education or even experience, that's a reason we are seeing that some immigrants, they are not working in the jobs that they are supposed to do. So we are seeing some job mismatches or skills mismatches, and also at the same time some immigrants are not able to integrate into the labor market quickly. It takes time, or even if they are able to find an employment, the earnings is significantly, they are not able to catch parity, and the earnings is less than those who are not immigrants. So to address that issue, this is something that governments need to focus on to improve integration of those immigrants by, first of all, through this appropriate selection. It's really important to focus on skilled immigrants because their labor market outcomes has shown that they perform better than other immigrants. So it's really important to focus on skilled immigrants, express entry, and also those, to increase the proportion of temporary immigrants into, transfer temporary immigrants into permanent immigration. So these are really important and helpful to improve integration of immigrants into the labor market. And this is really critical for now, because we don't have time to wait until immigrants eventually can integrate. We need immigrants to be able to find the right job, fill vacant positions, and bring right skills.
Thank you for that response, Dr. Mahboubi. Minister Mendicino, if I can come back to you, in continuation of what we were discussing right now, I would like to have your opinion on the joblessness experienced by immigrants as a fallout of COVID-19, especially in the current situation. And I'm just referencing to an August 2020 federal government study. The rate of unemployment amongst immigrant population in April was 17.3% compared to 13.5% for Canadian-born population. So I'm not sure if it is a systematic problem. What do you think? How can it be addressed?
Well, I think first and foremost by ensuring that all workers have support as we recover from the pandemic, and we made sure that regardless of status, that if you met the minimum criteria for some of the emergency benefits that we put into place, that was there to avoid other burdens, whether it's on homelessness or on social assistance. And so it's important that we really take, I think, an approach during the pandemic that provides workers who are here and who are contributing with support if their employment was impacted by COVID-19. And the program that I referred to at the outset, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which has been extended until next summer, is one of those initiatives that I think businesses and members of your organization can take full advantage of to keep workers, whether they're Canadian or if they are immigrants, on the payroll with a subsidy of up to 75%. In addition to that, Deputy Prime Minister Freeland recently announced the rent relief program, which will now be delivered directly to tenants, which was a function of the feedback that we got from the first iteration of that program, which was initially provided through landlords, is another support that I think will help businesses keep as many employees on the payroll as possible. And I think those are the types of initiatives which will benefit workers broadly across the continuum. I think from our perspective, the key to success is always to address the needs of the economy. And by that, I mean by looking at where the labor gaps are, by ranking them in order of priority in terms of what we need, both in the short term as well as in the long term, and by aligning those gaps to the skill sets that exist beyond. And this is where the OECD has consistently recognized Canada's economic immigration as being a gold standard. And that is largely because of the nimbleness of our express entry program, where we can really be quite fine-tuned in how we attract people to fill those gaps. And I think that we can do more. I think we can improve that system. I think we can and should transform many of our processes, some of which are still paper-based, into a more virtual and digital space. And I cited some examples where we're seeing the profits of that creativity right now. But I think we need to look at our entire system and try to drive that that transformation as quickly as possible. And by doing so, I think we will set up immigrants for success, and we will set up our economy for success. And that is certainly part of what I hope to be unveiling as I provide my fall update on immigration levels very shortly.
Thank you, Minister. We definitely would eagerly look forward to those new things. Dr. Crawford, you've had experience of working as an immigration lawyer in the UK and in Australia, and you're an acknowledged expert on global immigration trends and laws. We know. In your opinion, is Canada facing serious competition in attracting skilled immigrants? That's one part. And should Canada be doing more to improve the immigration system, the program? I think Minister did briefly highlight some of the things. I would like to hear from you as to how you feel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that, yes, there is increasing competition because while it's certainly the case that the total fertility rate in Canada is very low in the OECD, and therefore it's a very big driver for not only population growth, but maintaining a certain level of the working population. There are skill sets that are just in themselves very rare. And so by way of example, over the last 18 months, I would say there have been particular programs for certain skilled occupations, the sort of occupations identified in the Global Talent Stream in June 2017. Those same types of occupations, essentially STEM occupations, have been identified in special programs that have been introduced in New Zealand, in Australia, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in parts of Europe, and in Israel, as well as Canada. And that's an indicator that countries are concerned. And all I can say is there are probably three things when it comes to attracting people sponsored by employers, because most of these, not all, but most of these are employer sponsored categories. And business wants three things. It wants transparent rules. If they apply the rules and select the right people, they want predictable outcomes, and they want reasonable and consistent timeframes. And if those three things exist, a business can invest in a jurisdiction and get local people from the local labour market, and where they need the skills to be brought in, they'll get them, and they will build a business. They will invest in that business in that country because they can do these things. They're the elements in an immigration program, at least from an employer perspective, that are very important. And the Global Talent Stream has delivered that for Canada. And we've seen an increase in investment opportunity that may still be there for some of the reasons I spoke about earlier. So yes, there is competition. Canada's done very well. But as the Minister was just saying, and I was trying to say, remaining alert and active and looking at policy options and building for the future will be very important.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. I think considering the time sensitivity, we might take a couple of more questions. I have the next question for Dr. Mahboubi. Dr. Mahboubi, how do you see the immigration situation in 2021? And why I'm asking that is official figures about immigration don't tend to get released until 1 or 2 years after the fact. So it's a guesswork trying to figure out how many newcomers Canada welcomed this year or how many are in the pipeline. Because the immigration process is a maze, I would say, slow for most potential immigrants, except for a few categories. Is it possible that there would be even fewer of them next year too? I mean, like this year, we talked about that the numbers are going to be quite low compared to what we were expecting to come in. So would it be affecting our numbers in 2021 as well? What's your take on that?
One thing that I can tell about that is that it really depends on the situation we are facing in terms of, for example, the next wave of the crisis and the virus, and whether we're going to have any solution, whether we're going to live with the virus or whether we're going to have a vaccine for the virus to be able to allow a larger degree of individuals' movement between the countries, and it also depends on immigration policy, whether and even airlines, whether there is a way to be able to, for example, quick testing. Is it possible to test individuals before boarding the plane or immediately after their arrival to make sure that they are not carrying any virus with themselves? It all depends on the science, immigration policy, and what we are facing in terms of this pandemic. Is it going to be another wave or not? Hopefully we're going to, even if we have to live with the virus for a longer period of time into 2020, hopefully we are going to find a way to be able to increase the number of immigration, at least compared to this year, to be able to address the issues we are going to face in the near future in terms of a skills gap, labor shortages. Although yes, unemployment rate is high currently, but definitely if at the beginning of the recovery we will know that more jobs become available and more jobs will be created, and these jobs need labor to be filled, and we need the right skills. So immigration has to be considered as one of the most important factor for the recovery. So this is really important to look at all possible ways, even innovative ways, to make sure that we can increase number of immigration compared to this year.
Thank you, Dr. Mahboubi. Minister, would you like to add anything onto this? I mean, in terms of what we are seeing from your perspective for 2021?
You want me to let the cat out of the bag a little bit early? Before I go to Parliament? I think some of my colleagues might have something to say about that. No, I mean, look, I think you can discern from my comments that I am optimistic about the future of the country at large, because I see a path and a trajectory where we grow through immigration. And as I have attempted to outline in my remarks and in response to your questions, you know, there are opportunities abound on how we can do that and how we can work together. And I believe that the case for immigration is very much underpinned by the economic opportunities that will be driven by immigration. As I mentioned to you, to address the gaps that exist within our economy, to address the short-term essential services that we need to keep our economy going, to meet the needs of Canadians, and equally to help us move the needle on replenishing our workforce by attracting, you know, young, hardworking, intelligent, bright, promising people from around the world, and that includes from India and elsewhere. And so this is, I think, one of those things where I think, you know, we can really come together on. We can draw on our personal experiences, whether it's you know, 3 generations or 4 generations ago, or, you know, a family that just arrived in the last year, as much as this year seems to have defied or wanted to defy that. This is one of the common bonds that I think Canadians share. And so I promise I'll have more to say in Parliament, where you will get the full details of our plan going forward. And I look forward to coming back to speak with you at greater length about that as well. And thank you again, truly, for having me on tonight's panel. It's been a wonderful opportunity and a great conversation.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your words. And in fact, your predecessor, Honorable Ahmed Hussain, has been, you know, very actively engaged with our chambers. He has attended several of our events, and we look forward to, you know, engaging with your office and yourself, of course, on an ongoing basis. And hopefully, we would be able to meet in person and engage for sure. Thank you very much. And I think just keeping timeline in mind, I would not take any further questions, though I have quite a few questions coming in from our audience as well. But I think we'll have to take it offline later on. So I'll once again, thank you very much, all the panelists, and I hand it over back to Vijay to proceed further. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I'd like to invite my colleague, Surinder Sharma. Surinderji, over to you to thank all our sponsors and everybody that's helped put this together. So over to you, Surinderji.
Thank you, Vijay. Ladies and gentlemen, before I thank the speakers, I like to mention that this was indeed the most interesting and informative session out of all the series of webinars we have brought for our members in the community. Thank you very much for all the speakers, and especially thank you to our Honorable Minister, Marco Mendicino, for joining us. And in spite of his busy schedule, he came and gave us a lot of insights. And presently, he holds a very important responsibility in the government, and immigration holds future of Canada, and it has brought us all here in Canada. Your presence this afternoon made a remarkable difference in the proceedings. You contributed the facts and figures. And of course, the key word to carry is that immigration is the economic driver. I think we all need to carry that key word. We have to emphasize on immigration. So, the Minister, all Indo-Canadians appreciate the role you are playing in the government, and thank you, sir, for joining and supporting the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce and making this session very productive. I also like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. David Crawford, Managing Partner of Fragomen Canada Company. You have tremendous global experience, sir, and gave a holistic approach to the subject today. Thank you very much. And our special thanks to Dr. Parisa Mabubi, the Senior Policy Analyst of CD Howe Institute. Parisa, you have great insights of the subject and clarity of expression. Thank you for joining this session. And friends, our chamber has been conducting webinars since April, and we were one of the first to take this initiative for the Indo-Canadian community and our members. This success came with the support from all our stakeholders that included the federal and provincial governments in Canada and India. On behalf of our chamber, I wish to put on record the support we received from Fragomen Canada Company for today's webinar. Thank you so much. And special thanks to our technology partner, Tangentia, and thanks to our annual sponsors, gold sponsor, Turkish Airlines, silver sponsor, TD Bank, bronze sponsor, Peter and Paul's, and also the sector sponsors, Seneca College, SBI Canada, Raymond James, ICCC Bank Canada, TELUS, and GT20. Media partners, Weekly Voice, PTC, Punjabi, and Y Media. Also, all the audience who have joined in making this program a great success. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take
everybody.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.